problem with hiring used to be search. Now it's signal. Too many applicants, too many tools, too much noise. And Kathleen Steffey, the founder of Naviga, she's watching companies drown in applicants and still having trouble finding the right people. You're going to enjoy this episode because she's going to tell you that the hiring market isn't broken, but the playbook is. I'm Bryon Morrison. Let's get to the leaders list.
Everything is happening through these screens.
How are we getting the most out of that person?
I want to see this thing grow long term.
Amazing story. You have such a unique perspective on that.
Schedule a 2-week vacation.
I applaud those models.
Undervalue.
Secure your digital footprint as well.
Why were they even put in place in the first place?
Only the most adaptable survive.
Let's get to the leaders list. Kathleen Steffey, welcome to the leaders list.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're so thrilled. So, founder, CEO of Naviga Recruiting, you have been doing this for an awful long time, 25 years, or close. You're coming up on 25 years, right?
Yeah, owning Naviga, but about 30 in talent acquisition, 31 now. Oof.
All right, we don't have to count every year. That's okay. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
No, but I'm super interested in the process that you've gone through over those years. I mean, that's a lot of different change. You've seen the industry change, but most importantly, you've built this company over that time. So tell us a little bit about Naviga and just the stages of growth that you've experienced and what it's been like.
Yeah, when I started Naviga, I was kind of a solopreneur, just on my own, and seeing what I can do. It was during a transition from corporate talent acquisition, and I had a severance from a software company, and I was like, what do I want to do? So when I started it, there wasn't a grand plan to make it what it is today. It was kind of a day by day journey as a young woman out there.
Which is typical, right? I mean, that's how a lot of people start their businesses. They don't go into it with grand plans. Some do. Some go into it with the business plan all established and prepared, but some go into it because they're just really good at what they do. Yeah. And they find an opening and keep building. So that sounds like a pretty traditional path.
Yep, that was me. I loved recruiting, always have. And I'm like, let me just expand on this and keep doing it and see what I can do. And I found it easy. You know, the contacts that I had in the businesses that I worked started to use me, right? So I just started there and made some small investments and then just took it year by year, really. I didn't really start to have an interest in growing Naviga in a bigger way until about 10 years ago. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, so half of the time I've owned Naviga, I have just been having a lot of fun, with not too much intention. Right. And that had a lot to do with my personal life, raising 3 daughters and all that stuff. But now that I'm older, Bryon, in the last 10 years, I really kind of sat down and I said, I want to do something different here. And I became very intentional about our marketing and business development and all that. So that's kind of a little snippet of my journey.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that shift, because I think that's, there's an intentionality. People start to realize I am going to build a business here. Do I want it to be a lifestyle business, or am I going to build this to be able to sell or buy other firms? And so when you decided I'm going to do this, was there something that clicked in your brain and said, now's the time? Or was it did it feel like just a natural process?
A little bit of both. Owning a business is very personal for me. I built the business based on the things that I learned and kind of my heart around talent acquisition on the corporate side. It's just, I'm just not doing it because I was in sales and said, let me just, so it's personal. So I had to say, all right, let's take some of the personal out of this and see how we can grow it more intentionally by, holding the team more accountable for that growth, becoming a better leader. And it really had to do with the stages and phases of my confidence as a person,
Your own personal process versus the company
It
stages.
really, yeah. And, I'm blessed because I had the freedoms to do that. Haven't had a board, I funded my own business, but the problem is the more serious you get, the stakes get higher.
Yeah. Now you got 20 people looking at you, or 25 people looking at you going, we're getting paid, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, but I like that pressure. And I think that at my age and at my maturity in the business, I'm really leaning into that in a great way.
That's great. That's great. Okay. So how would you describe the growth stage that you're at today at Naviga?
We're scaling. We're still scaling. I want to grow. I want to continue to serve our customers, continue to expand our customer base. We're expanding a certain product line, which is contingent workforce solutions and temp staffing. So that's a pretty aggressive growth number this year. So we're in growth mode for sure. I'm not ready to put a lid on it.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. So when you have grown the firm, what were some of the key things that today, what's on your leaders list? Like what are the big initiatives? You just gave one, you're rolling out a new product line or service line.
Yep. Yeah. The initiatives are consistent production to our customer base, consistency. So it's very important.
Consistent experience.
Yes. A consistent experience and consistent execution from our team. So I'm very, very focused on our production behind the scenes and working with the organization leaders on that. I'm also very focused on business development. I think if we didn't get a new customer for the next 10 years, based on what we've developed over the years in our customer base, we could grow this thing in a really, really big way if we didn't get a single lead in this business from a new customer. And I'm very intentional in working with the business development team on plans to make sure we're growing our base. So those two things are really big and topical. And of course, marketing plays a massive role with business development in my world. They're not two separate entities. So the marketing department and business development are working closely with me on that initiative. So.
And those are initiatives that you own, or have you developed, did you spend a lot of time building out a leadership team, or do you have specialists that you work with? Just talk about like how you've structured your org.
Yeah, I've got a head of talent acquisition who's responsible for production, and she's got an army under her, essentially. She really does. I've got a business development team that they report directly to me. So I'm still leading that effort. I don't have anybody who's, a vice president level who's leading the sales team. And then I have on the marketing side, there's, I don't want to say an army, but half of an army supporting what we do from a marketing standpoint. And I have somebody leading up marketing as well. And I am the leader of marketing. They report into me. So I don't have that operational leader in between my team right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, it's interesting because if we think about the natural stages of growth, one of the first things that's most important is just the ability to produce and deliver on the early stages. And so when you did this yourself for 10, 15 years on your own, you were so passionate, you knew what you could control, you were doing good work. Well, that's the foundation, right? And so, you've got to get that right, but now you're building a sales and marketing engine to be able to build on that, or you already have, it sounds like.
Yep.
Armies there.
Yeah.
So those are all the right processes. That makes sense. And do you ever see it sounds like you're still the top producer, right? You're still the person who is meeting with clients every day, and you're in the business. Is that right? Do you still work in it? Or
I'm not with clients. Thank God. I love my clients, but I know I'm not that active in the business.
Okay.
I do meet with some key clients on bigger growth issues periodically, but I'm not embedded in our process on a consistent basis. So
Got it.
where I play a role in the business is guiding my team to success so they can lead our clients properly and be in front of them properly and execute. So my clients don't see me, they see me in our marketing, okay? But they don't see me eyeball to eyeball. And that's good right now because I'm focused on growing the business in a different way.
Yeah, and I'm sure they appreciate that, right? I mean, it's the leading and coaching and teaching that will allow them to be better served. You know, instead of, when did you realize that you could be the bottleneck? Was that ever, did you ever wrestle with that?
I don't know if I viewed it as a bottleneck. I think, well, yeah, I did. I said, I got to get out of this. I've got peer groups, you know, I'm in peer groups that kind of act like my board. And the more I would involve myself in those accountability discussions about leadership and what we need to do to grow this business, that's what made me realize, you know, and something happened then with maybe at the same time. Again, no aha moment here. It's really just been organic. But something happened where the caliber of people in my business, the people we started to hire was upgraded, and the accountabilities for my directors changed as well. Just the conversation started to change, right? To require.
And you knew you had to up your game. You could feel it.
Yeah. I've never sat on my hands, and I can't even yet. And I don't think that's ever even going to be possible unless I'm out of the business. So,
yeah. Well, okay. So if we're just thinking about staffing and recruiting at this stage in the industry, you've probably seen it go through a lot of stages. We're in the middle of a tremendous amount of change right now with AI. We see a lot of workforce reductions taking place, but you know, the types of candidates people are looking for. Just give us a feel for what you see going on.
Yeah, I see a lot of demand. You know, we have a lot of demand to help businesses fill their positions. I see change happening with technology in the last maybe 2 to 3 years. It does have to do with AI most recently, but even beforehand, I think the access that employers have for talent has changed based on tech, right? And
you're saying that they have more access today, right? I mean, like they can find
more
people anywhere. They can start thinking about remote talent. They can look for very specific information about individuals, and it's out there.
It's out there, yeah. But the problem is it's too much. So my clients, they're getting too much thrown at them in terms of volume, and they need to fill a position with, you know, an A player, high caliber, with all these bells and whistles. And it's just, it becomes impossible to do. And especially if they're scaling and have more than one job, you know, even 3 to 5 jobs at a time, it's just impossible. So there's a dilemma here with the employer audience where they have access, but the quality's not there. And they don't know or have the capacity to go out and solicit, you know,
filter it.
Yeah, that they need to. And then we also have a massive problem with the candidate side and the candidate experience when it comes to, you know, applying and soliciting themselves to employers. We have a major problem where we're missing talent because there's too much being thrown at the employer, and there's a lot of pointing of fingers and a blame game, you know, with employers going on where, you know, they're ghosting us, and, you know, we're just a number and all that stuff. But because I come from talent acquisition, I feel for HR and I feel for talent acquisition inside corporations, because they're juggling with just so much garbage that pretty much the first 50, or let's even be liberal here, 100, candidates that apply, after that, they're done. They are done sifting through, people, and they'll take the best of the best from the 100, and they don't care if really their hire is at 101, because they're done.
So Kathleen, yeah, I mean, I get that, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? The technology allows me more access. I get to see more candidates. I get to look at more. I can't keep up with the volume. And then the candidate starts using technology, and that almost misrepresents the individual in some situations, because it sounds better and they sure like how AI made me sound. So I use that. And then that becomes problematic. And so then the company starts using more technology to sift through the candidates.
Right.
And so like this technology build is really challenging, but how do you get around that? Like, what should I be doing if I'm a company that has, 250 employees? I've got to scale. I've got to be hiring at a pretty good clip. How am I going to find the right people in this environment?
Well, I'll tell you what we're doing, because we're in the same boat, right? We
Sure.
have a lot of demand. We have a lot of eyes on Naviga, and candidates want to be in front of us. The amount of calls we get, like everything, it's like, you would think that it's a good problem to have, and it is, but it needs to be solved. So right now, I mean, employers.
And Kathleen, the problem you're talking about is you representing the right talent, right? Because when you say, like, what is that problem? What I'm hearing you say is you've got a lot of candidates coming to you saying, hey, I want you to help me find a job. And you have a lot of clients asking for that. So you've got to be able to not be part of the problem by just adding more.
Oh, absolutely. So the way that we are solving that problem right now is cross-referencing the volume in bulk with AI.
So you're using more technology.
We are.
To solve the technology problem.
It's the only way to solve that right now, because of the amount of volume. And a lot of small businesses and developers out there are pitching to Naviga and pitching to our clients, to integrate, plugins and all that stuff. But in time, this is going to be solved by the big guys. It's going to be solved where we have the ability to sift through the volume in an appropriate manner, and we can get to places. So right now, Naviga is handling this both manually and through AI to get to the right people. It's not taking it's not taking the place of the role of recruiting. It is just helping us through that process, and our customers aren't doing that. So,
well, and that's the question, right? Because that is the promise of AI, right? Large volumes of information, the ability to sift through that, identify the right answers, is the promise.
Yeah.
So if that were the case and you're doing that, what keeps large companies from saying, I don't need the recruiter once I understand AI and use it the same way?
Yeah. Still capacity, time, the ability to judge the talent, having the tools. They're not all going to have the tools. They're not going to have the level of sophistication and judgment calls on their TA team. It comes down to volume, and capability and tools. It truly does.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So would your recommendation be, if I'm that person that's, I know that talent matters to me, I've got to find the right talent, should I be building my own recruitment system? Should I be building my own technology? Or should I be partnering with groups like yours and being able to figure out long-term partnerships? Mm-hmm. So I let you go struggle through the change and change of technology and the challenges associated with that?
Yeah. if it's a business that's scaling in higher volume, I think they should figure it out. You know,
what's higher volume look like? At what point should I be thinking about that?
I mean, if they're hiring 50 people a year, they need to develop an internal system that's going to help them do that and not outsource it to a firm like Naviga or elsewhere. You know, I have a TA hat in corporate recruiting, and it just doesn't make functional sense. But if you're hiring, 10 times a year, you don't have, an internal infrastructure with, corporate recruiters and HR that can handle it. Your hiring managers are strapped because they're scaling and responsible for growth. You've got to outsource it because you don't have the time. So
super helpful. Yeah. And then you still serve as like the release valve when even that 50. So if they're building their own system, but then there's a highly specialized search or there's something additional that doesn't fit easily, that's when you still use the outside team.
Yeah. I mean, we work with billion-dollar companies that are hiring 1,000, to 5,000 a year, and they can't do it all. It's not functional for a corporate recruiting function to handle it. So, yeah.
Do you find those huge companies are doing a good job of building AI-based systems to be able to manage and keep up with this volume?
Not yet. Not yet. It's probably the worst. It's the worst representation of response time and days to fill, and because they are getting hit with the absolute most candidates. They have the highest visibility. So from the candidate audience with open jobs. So no, I don't.
Well, and is that because, like right now, you would argue most candidates will tell you this is a horrible market, really hard to find a job. And, I hear it constantly. So do you agree with that? Or do you find that there's a certain segment that it's really hard for?
This is such a great question because I literally coach so many people on this, executives, and speak to it. No, it's not a hard market. Okay. Employers are hiring like mad and everyone can see it, right? Everyone's seeing the jobs out there. They're not fake. The problem is what I'm talking about, right? With the gridlock, with tech, and they cannot get to it. So everyone has become a number. What it's done is it's forced the candidate audience to go at this differently and almost treat it like a business development process, right? I know this is not for a candidate audience, but there is an approach that I coach, candidates to use to get out of that mess and gridlock until it's solved. So
let's talk a little bit about that, because if I'm on the other side of that and I'm hiring, what should I be looking for the people who are doing it differently? Like, are they going? How do they stand out? Give us a little bit about what you're telling the candidates, so those of us that are hiring can keep an eye out for them.
Okay, so I coach the highest level special operations who are transitioning out of the military, the highest of the highest, the Navy SEALs, the Green Berets, and all that stuff. So they have the worst of it. So they have the worst of it because no one wants them. People think they do. They don't, because they don't have any of our civilian business background, and it's very scary and confusing. So what I coach them on, and the same can apply truly for anyone going after the marketplace, is a 5 and 5. You see 5 businesses that you might be interested in working at, and you look and research 5 stakeholders out of each of those businesses. So essentially you have a plan that you're going after 25 people deliberately and intentionally, right? And how do we go after them? It, of course, is through LinkedIn, right? It's through email. It's asking to speak to them. It's asking to have a coffee. It's getting connected to them through somebody else that they know on LinkedIn. It's having a reference in a group message on LinkedIn that, says, hi, I'm interested in exploring this. My former boss is on this thread. He or she can vouch for me. I'd love to have a conversation. So it's not an annoyance, because it's actually almost a relief if it's good, if it's a good approach. It's a relief to that hiring manager because they're in the mix of all these 900,000 resumes coming to them that are wrong, and then it just alleviates some of the pressure because movement, a body in motion stays in motion. So if you continue to have this kind of motion when you're looking for a position, it's going to pop. But you can't just keep doing the same thing and just submitting yourself against applications. It's a downer.
Yeah, well, it's a sea of sameness, right? So it's
Yeah.
interesting because I do the same thing with vets, but I also teach at SMU, and college students are so afraid of looking like they did something wrong. They want to
Yeah.
look professional. And I tell everybody, I'm like, look, you just got done getting a brand management degree. This is a marketing campaign.
Yeah.
You should be thinking about what are the pieces that you send someone that make you stand out?
Yeah.
What are the things that make you look different? Because different is what's intriguing to me.
Right.
And I love your point about this being, it is a sales process.
It really is.
Yeah. So that's interesting to hear because most people, there was a period of time where the only thing you heard was, let me help you redo your resume so the ATS will get you, you'll get past the ATS.
Yeah.
Or applicant tracking system. Your perspective is, of course, you have to submit those things, but to hell with that.
I
Go
know.
directly to the company.
Oh yeah, you've got to be intentional to the stakeholders. And imagine if these stakeholders got one of your university students. It's a standout. If they received a message like that, in a very intentional, professional message, but just showed that this person has a fire and they're going right. So, but it's funny that you say that because the special ops guys, the same thing. They don't want to seem pushy and unprofessional, but it's like, come on. I think everyone's lost their fire about how to go after things creatively, where we're just.
I mean, I agree with that, but I also find that vets are used to working within a system. The system, that meritocracy is very clear how you move through that. So the idea of standing out for yourself doesn't necessarily jive with what they've been taught for years and years and years.
100%.
So I think people who are hiring out there, which by the way, some of the most amazing people are veterans. And so, if you're going to give anybody a little bit of a break, recognize where they come from and give them that opportunity because it's worth it.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's nice. I didn't know that about you. That you do that.
Yeah. So, all right. I've been listening to this. I think you gave everybody a lot of gold in this process. We all recognize what we need to start thinking about. We need to be accepting of the individuals that are going to reach out to us in a unique way and read that as fire, read that as interest. I always love I reference this all the time. One of the guys that said he wanted to work at my company Proxy, he knows that we're 100% remote, and he goes, I know this is the right place for me. I'm ready to clean virtual toilets. I'll do anything. And I was like, that is the most hilarious thing. And it got him in.
It did.
It certainly got the interview. So I think that's a really, really important piece for all of us to recognize is that we also get hit with sales stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And it becomes easy to become numb to that.
Yeah.
But in the talent world, I think that's such great advice for all of us just to recognize like these individuals, when they show that kind of effort, you're going to get the benefit of that if you hire those people too, because they have that kind of drive.
Yeah, I agree. And just remember, it's a human on the other side. I think we've lost touch with who is actually reaching us. These are humans.
Okay. So Kathleen, number one thing I should do if I'm going to go improve my recruiting and improve my talent acquisition process?
I would make sure you're defining what you need, what you want, and how you're going to go after it. And give yourself a timeline, right? And a goal. And if you're not successful within that timeline, start being creative and open ideas up to solve the problem otherwise.
Do it differently.
Yep.
Don't just wallow in it.
Yep.
That's good stuff, Kathleen. Kathleen Steffey, thank you so much for being on the leaders list, and we wish you the very best of luck in Naviga recruiting.
Thanks so much, Bryon.